Hi YouTube friends, it's Sandra from the Creative Wondering Duo. Well, it's time to make another scrappy quilt again. Like you've seen in my last video, I had all those batik scraps and I found more. Well, I cut them into 2.5-inch strips. So I have a great big batch of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew them all together end to end and just make a long strip. And I'm going to do like a jelly roll race, except for they're not the full width of the fabric. So it's going to be a little bit of sewing, but we'll see how it turns out. So I'll sew the first few and let you see how it all goes together. Okay, well, I'm not going to plan. I'm just going to pull and start sewing. And the wonderful thing about batik is there's no right or wrong side. So I like that. Oh, I gotta put my thread in there properly. As you can see, some of them are pretty short. But that was scraps that I had left. And I'm just going to sew them all together in twos, and then I'll separate those and sew the next batch. Whoops, together. Whoop. Can't hang on to it today, sorry. Anyway, I got these all mixed together. I started sewing and forgot to talk to you. And what I'm doing is I just remix them again after getting them all apart. So now I'm going to take and sew these together randomly again, whatever happens to come out of the basket. And it doesn't matter the colors. I'm not trying to do light dark or anything like that. It's just whatever you grab. Just make sure that you've got the seams coming out so that you don't have to unsew. So I'll keep sewing these, and that's what you continue to do, is just keep sewing them, cutting them apart, and putting them back in the basket, and until you've got one great big long string. I'll see you in a bit. Well, here we are, down to the last couple of strips. So I'll quickly get these sewn together. Oops, wrong way. I keep trying to sew them the lengthwise. And then I have to get Jack out. And we got one that's going to be left on its own, so I'm just going to tag it onto this one and tuck it in here. There we go. Now, remember that handy dandy little tool I was telling you about? I'm going to show you how it works. And we're just going to chuck these back into the basket and mix them up again. And then, so these sets of two together to make until we have one great big long string. See, why do you need to go out and buy a thread cutter? So I'll get this done, and then I'll start sewing these together. Again, randomly, just open them up and sew them together. And then do it again and again and again until we end up with one long string. Well, as you can see, I've sewn a few strips together and just about to the end again. I think I've got, with this it'll make 8 seams in each strip pack. And as you can see, it's random. I'm just grabbing and putting together and sewing. So I don't know what it's going to look like. This is all like an experiment. And I think you can do it with any kind of fabric. It's just, with batiks, I don't have to worry about wrong side or right side. So, kind of like that option. Both sides are good. And I'm going to keep sewing these together until I end up with one great big long string. And as you can see, it doesn't matter if it's dark, light, whatever. They're just going together. I think they're getting long enough now that this box is more of a nuisance than a help. And again, mixing them up. Okay. Grab this one out. I have no idea how big this quilt's going to be. I'd have to put these on the floor so I don't get them mixed up with that pile. Okay, I'm sure you get the idea. I'm just going to continue sewing here until I have them all into one big long string. And then I'll come back and show you how we're going to sew it together. Okay, I took my great big row of cloth here. Can you see that on the floor down there? All down here. Anyway, took it to the pressing station and I pressed all my seams. And I kept track of my ends, so hopefully I don't have any twists in there. Because now we are going to sew this together. We started our ends. Here we go. Just cutting my leader off. Don't need it there. And I'm just going to sew this until I get to the middle. So I'll bring you back in shortly. And there is my first 2 rows sewn together. So now I have to find the other end and then start sewing it together again. And that is, you just keep flipping and sewing until you get it to the width you want and the length you want, and then you stop. So I'll show you a little more further down the road as we get sewing some more. Well, as you can see, I've got several rows done now, several turnabouts here. So I'll carry on, do another one. Okay, I'm going to open it up here. And I think this will be our last seam. It's getting kind of big now and awkward. Now, because this is so wide, I'm going to take it over and use my ruler to cut, but I'm going to snip this right here. Then I know where to cut it at. And I think one more turn and we should be done. Well, are you ready for the big reveal? Oh, it's long. There you go. What do you think of that? It's quite long, so I'll probably trim some off, but I think it turned out pretty good.